wonderful guests. In this episode of my podcast, I have a special guest, and that guest is Nikki. Nikki is a brand and web designer who is based over in Perth, so other side of the country from me. And I decided to invite Nikki on because in addition to being someone who designs beautiful websites, Nikki also has some thoughts and experiences around creating websites that are accessible. And by accessible, we mean fair and equitable and reasonably accessible to the best of our abilities to anyone of any ability level, and anyone with any kind of particular needs. So I'm quite happy and quite excited to have this discussion, and yeah, hear some thoughts on why this is important. So I wanted to ask you, Nikki, if you could tell us a bit about how you got your start in branding and web design.
So in classic neurospicy fashion, it's been a wibbly wobbly path
Yeah.
to get here. I originally studied photography at uni, which was part of a digital media degree. So I did do some graphic design units. I did a web design unit. I hated it. I swore I would never touch like code or websites again. And then I spent the next 10 years in my photography business doing more on my website and my brand and my design than I did photography. Um, Also with like day jobs throughout that in various industries and then in tech. When I got laid off my job for being too disabled, I had been planning to go back into photography once my health restored, but it didn't. And then in various business groups, I saw everyone being like, oh, I just hate building a website. I'm trying to do it and it's the worst. Like all of this stuff. And I'm like, but guys, that's the best part. That's the best part. It's so much fun. And it brings in all the stuff that I'd been learning over the past like 15 years in my own business and in the small business space and in like marketing and sales psychology and UX from my day job. And I was like, oh, I really have a whole heap of, I love this. It's so much fun. I have a huge amount of experience and like skills that can really help people do it better than they would if they were DIYing. Anyway, I'm like, oh, I should just help them with this. Let me help you.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I get that. And I can see that, a lot of people when they start out in their businesses, that either want to do everything themselves or feel like they have to. And if you want to go ahead and do that, yeah, that's great. But yeah, being able to help those people who don't feel comfortable with designing their websites is also a great gift to share.
Yeah, it's really great. It can make such a huge difference in people's businesses. And also as someone who's also tried to do everything myself, um, I really like a lot of people are like, oh, I just, especially like in this industry, are like, give it to me and I'm going to do the whole thing and maybe I won't even give you access to it.
Mm.
And I'm like, do you need someone to help you get started? Do you need someone to help you finish it off? Do you need
Mm.
someone just to like have a look over or ask a couple of questions? Like, hit me up. I would love to help. I'm happy to like, I find it really fun to jump in where people are at and help them from there, which surprisingly you don't see a lot.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, so there's no one way you can help people. You can help them in whatever stage they might be in.
Yeah, which is like no shade to people who have decided that what works best for them in their business is to just do the whole thing. Like all approaches are valid, but I just, yeah, it's just the helping people part is my vibe. And I'm like, I want to help you where you're at. Because we've all been at all stages, and I've been the poor person who's like,
Yeah.
oh, I can give you $50 to help me for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, sure, I'll take it. I'll help you.
Yeah. And it's the same with anything, right? Like I'm sure, everyone's burnt something the first time they try cooking. Yeah. So yeah, the main topic of this discussion was around accessibility.
Yeah.
And I hear a lot of pushback against it, like, oh, it's, only a teeny portion of the population need reading devices or certain things to help them use the web. But A, that's not nice. And B, also, when we do things to make websites more accessible to those people who need it, it makes it better for everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Curb cut effect.
You agree with that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And for anyone that doesn't know what the curb cut effect is, sort of the curb cuts, they're like gradiated bits of footpaths and curbs that allow wheelchairs to go up them. Also, then benefit people with prams, people with like wheelie bags, people on bicycles. Like it's an accessibility feature, but it benefits everyone. So that's sort of the way that, yeah, the curb cut effect is what we call when you
Mm-hmm.
do something for accessibility purposes and then it just benefits so many more people.
Yeah.
But yeah, and also I feel like it might be worth noting here, like disabled people aren't a small minority. Most studies have disabled people at around 25% of the global population.
Oh,
Like
wow.
that's not a minority of people. That's not a small few. That's a lot of people who want to spend money and
Mm-hmm.
who want to give you their money if you'll let them. But when
Yeah.
you do things that are inaccessible, you go, well, I don't care about you. I don't want your money. And I'm like, but I just wanted to give you my money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
So
that could, yeah, that could mean many things. That could mean profits that you don't get, sales that you don't get. It could be an amazing human that you don't get to meet because they couldn't
yeah,
figure out your website.
exactly. And yeah, on top of that, obviously, things that benefit disabled people benefit everyone. I think like there are some amazing stats around like closed captions,
Mm-hmm.
and like an enormous percentage of people use closed captions for a whole variety of reasons. Like it's not just people who are deaf and hard of hearing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like people who are trying to watch something in a crowded area. It's people who have, I mean, people with auditory processing abilities sort of count in the disabled category, but it's people whose first language isn't English. It's
Yeah.
like people who are scrolling Instagram on their phones with the sound off because they're on public transport, like,
Mm-hmm.
or because they've got kids running around yelling in the background, or
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Totally agree with all of that. Um, so what are some ways that websites are not accessible?
So I actually went through recently and wrote a blog post about some of the big things that I noticed straight off the bat.
Yep.
Um, like for reference, I'm not an accessibility consultant. Um, I have spent like my Friday night reading the newest WCAG criteria.
Right.
But yeah, I'm more of an accessible designer than accessibility specialist. But
Yeah.
like some really big things are like color contrast. Um, so many people are using such low contrast colors, it makes things really difficult to access and to read.
Hmm.
And that's such an easy fix.
Yeah.
Um,
I think
oh, yeah, no, go.
that's the most noticed, the one I noticed most as well is like yeah, white text on orange background and things like that.
Right. And I'm like, obviously, you know, it's an issue for people with low vision. It can be an issue for people with color blindness.
Yeah.
But also, like at night on my phone, I have hectic like dimming and like blue light blocking,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't read most of your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Or like if I'm outside and it's sunny and like it with your screen visibility, I'm like, I can't, you've written this whole huge like thing and I can't read any of it
Mm-hmm.
because it
Yeah.
just blends all together. Obviously, alt text on images is a huge issue, both for screen readers, and like it can help people with like real crappy internet connections as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, Lou, you'll be aware that, I mean, most accessibility best practices also help your SEO, like if you need
Mm-hmm.
another reason.
Yeah.
Um,
Indeed it does.
but yeah, so like alt text helps people using screen readers and assistive technology to understand what your image is about,
Mm-hmm.
which also means it helps Google know what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, descriptive link text is another one that is a huge issue. So, I mean, this applies visually, but for one, something that I don't think a lot of people are aware of is the way that screen readers often navigate pages.
Mm.
Um, so they will navigate via things like your headings and your heading structure, which is why using those properly is important and using
Mm.
them. And also, like they can give people an overview of the links on the page and let them navigate the links. So if your links all say click here, click here, click here, click here, why? Like that's not helpful. Where am I
Mm-hmm.
going? What am I clicking on? Whereas if your link says like, you know, you've got a link to a study and it's like blah 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 study, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well I know if I click this link, I go to this study. And it helps people visually scanning pages as well, especially because your links look different. I'm like, I know that one that drives me spare. I mean, this is a little bit off topic, but is in marketing emails. Um, I'm looking at stuff and I'm like, okay, well, A, I don't know what resources you're trying to send me to. B, I can't find the unsubscribe link. I can't find the like manage your subscription because I want to use a different email address because it just says click here, click here. I'm like, where do
Mm.
I click for what? And I need to expend so much more mental energy. It stops me being able to skim and makes me have to like, which as someone with like cognitive disabilities
Mm-hmm.
on a low brain day is really like it's a lot of work and it kind of makes me pissed off at you. I'm like, just make things easy. Make things easy for people.
Yeah, exactly. And in a lot of these cases, if something is going wrong with, say, a website or an email, and someone is struggling to read it, they're not going to tell you. They're just going to exit your website, and you'll never know.
Exactly. Yeah. Like most of the time, exactly. Most of the time people won't tell you. They're like, oh, whatever, this person just doesn't give a shit. I'm just gonna go somewhere
Exactly.
else.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. If someone tells you about something that's broken, they really love you.
Hmm.
And there's probably a lot more people who have just left.
Yes, I am a good, kind soul who will leave positive Google reviews for restaurants because, like, most people don't think about it. They'll feel an urge to leave a review if they had a bad experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, coming back to the accessibility thing, um, yeah, that's an important one. People won't tell you. They'll just leave if something's wrong. Um, and yeah, so if you're a business owner right now, sitting and thinking about the website that you have now, or getting one redesigned, how big of a deal is it? Like, would somebody with an existing website have to knock it to the ground and rebuild it again? I'm just putting myself in their shoes.
I mean, often no. It might, if you're using a really inaccessible platform, and also I guess it depends how accessible you're trying to get it. Like,
Mm,
um, it's tricky because obviously there are legal requirements in a lot of the world. Australia, I think, is looking to Australia, the minimum legal requirement for a website is currently to hit WCAG 2.0 AA level. So WCAG is the Web Consortium Accessibility Guidelines. 2.0 is the old one. It came out like in the 90s. They did an updated little add-on of 2.1 in the 2000s to account for like the shift in movement to mobile devices. And then 2.2 came out recently. 3.0 is also in the works, but that keeps getting pushed and pushed and pushed as people debate what should be included and how to do it. So I believe Australia is in the process of shifting the legal requirement from 2.0 to 2.2, which is the new one. Getting to that level is definitely a little trickier. You're probably going to want to get an accessibility expert to help. Depending on your platform, there might be some custom coding involved. Depending on your platform, you straight up might not be able to get there. I think that's sort of partly where it can be helpful to keep things in mind from the very beginning. But like, it doesn't necessarily mean that whatever you've got, you're going to have to throw in the bin. Then also, like, in the process of getting there, oh, my brain. In the process of getting there, like, disabled people appreciate that you've made an effort and that you're making an effort. Like, if you've obviously gone nowhere and not considered it at all, we're just gonna feel excluded and ignored, and like you don't want our money, and like we don't want to do business with you. If you're clearly making an effort, also I think when someone's making an effort, it makes you more inclined to be like, hey, this is inaccessible about your website. I feel like you're making an effort and like you would like to know and like you'd be willing to change things. And like progress over perfection. Like, you're never, especially accessibility is a tricky topic because some things that are more accessible for one person make something less accessible for another person. Like, there is no perfection. Perfection is impossible, but people notice and appreciate when you're doing your best.
I agree. So if anyone's listening to this and kind of feeling worried that they have to like panic and make sure they cover everything, I would say, well, you don't necessarily have to panic. Just do what's in your capacity to do right now. Like if you're missing the alt text on images, go in and add that. Just start. If it feels overwhelming, just start with one or two things. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was where, like, again, when I did my blog post, I was like, let me pick some things that are easy fixes that don't require like technical abilities, like check your colors, check your fonts, check like how readable it is. Does it resize on a computer and a tablet and a phone? Because that also means it'll resize if someone like ups the zoom. A lot of the things are multi-layered and benefit everyone. They're just good practice, and then the bonus is that they also help with accessibility. So baby steps. Pick one point and tackle it this week or this month. Pick another point and tackle it the next week or the next month. Like, it's progress over perfection.
Yeah, that sounds like a good way to go about it. So I know that you said this already, but just so we're clear, we're not you're not an accessibility consultant, so people shouldn't expect to pick your brain too hard, but you do strive to do your best to design websites that are friendly to as many people as possible. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm like, and I've looked into it and I've gone, I'm not interested in becoming specifically an accessibility consultant, but I can take you a big chunk of the way, and then I can refer you to someone who can take you that last little bit.
Perfect. Wonderful. So that was a good set of questions and good discussion. Maybe we should close off with something. Now I'm struggling with words too.
I'm
So,
sorry.
so if someone wanted to work with you on creating a website or doing some branding, how would they go about reaching you?
So you can find me at studioNyx.co. So Nyx is NYX. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, occasionally,
Oh,
as
you're
Studio
still on
Nyx Co.
Twitter.
I'm not on Twitter much. My partner is on Twitter a lot, and I've got a friend circle there, sort of from when I was on Twitter when Twitter was still good. So I check in
Okay.
occasionally.
Right.
And if I'm scheduling posts, I schedule them to post on Twitter as well, because why not?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not like on there every day, but like if you flick me a DM, I would see it.
Cool.
And you can follow what I'm up to there.
Nice. You're fairly easy to reach then.
I'm easy. I'm around.
Excellent. All right. So, yeah, before we close off, do you have any closing words? I think you said it over and over again throughout. Progress is better than perfection.
Yeah, absolutely. Like as long as you're considering the diversity of people, and I mean that goes for outside accessibility as well. Like if you are considering other people in your business from different backgrounds to you, I think you're off, and making like small steps towards making sure you're more inclusive of them. I think you're on the right path.
Yeah, totally agree. All right. Well, thank you for speaking with me. It's been great having you as a guest.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I could rant about this for hours.